You have made the decision, or maybe the decision has been made for you by way of a job relocation. Regardless, you are moving to northern Colorado and just starting on your journey, trying to find out as much information as you can, and you've come to the right spot. This is the Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel, and today we are going to talk about the 5 things that maybe you would wish to know before making the move that could help you understand maybe where in northern Colorado you want to move, because maybe your job's in a certain location, or you've made that decision with you and your family, or you're being told you're moving to northern Colorado, but maybe can dictate a little bit where within northern Colorado you're going to move. Now, real quick, northern Colorado is Larimer and Weld County. North of Denver, about an hour, south of Cheyenne, about an hour, and along the Front Range. But today we are going to talk about these 5 things, and make sure to stick around for number 5 because I think it's super interesting and maybe not as big of a criteria as some make it out to be, that you could possibly control a little bit more. But hey, my name is Patrick Soukup. Like I said, this is the Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel where you come to learn everything there is to know about Fort Collins and northern Colorado. If you're considering or making that move to northern Colorado, give us a call, text, or email. We've helped hundreds of families relocate to northern Colorado and have really dialed in the process. So give us a call, text, or email if that is in the future for you. Otherwise, at the end of the video, give it a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and really subscribe. We have so many people watching this channel that aren't subscribers, nearly 75% of people. So please subscribe if you are looking at building more information, gaining more information. Now, no more delay. Let's jump into today's video. The 5 things that maybe I wish I would have known about northern Colorado before making my moves all over the place. Born and raised here in Fort Collins, but not necessarily, because I would say we've talked with so many people who wish they would have had a little bit more information at their hands, and that's what this video is for. So let's go. Number 1, what is radon? Yeah, you are moving to Colorado, northern Colorado, Fort Collins, and across the state. We have shifting soils here in Colorado, and we have what is called radon gases. And gases can get through anywhere. And it can be a scary, deep, dark hole that you crawl in and start researching, and just all of a sudden you feel like, I'm moving to a state that is gonna give me cancer, and I'm gonna die next year. Well, the reality is there are ways to mitigate it relatively affordably. And in Colorado, we all have, generally speaking, we all have basements. We live in our basements, unlike Arizona, California, Florida, Texas. So basements are a thing. And radon is a thing. When you go through the process of buying a home, you're going to test for radon levels. 4 picocuries per million liters. I don't know the exact phraseology, but 4 picocuries, 4.0. That's the number you care about, 4.0. It is the EPA standard. If it is below that, you're good. Not enough cancerous gases in the house to kill you. But if you're above that 4, you are going to want to have a radon mitigation system. It's really pretty simple. I have shot over 400 videos with a radon system literally 3 feet away from me. Now, if I die in a year or so, well, you can absolutely just say, Patrick, you're full of shit. I'm not moving to Colorado. There's radon, and you died. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully I'm still making videos here in the next year or so. But the reality is radon mitigation system is probably gonna run you about $1,500 to $2,500, depending on how intricate the process and the piping is. And essentially all they're going to do is they're gonna drill a hole into this foundation of the house. They're gonna put a fan in, and they're gonna suck the gases out and put them out the roof of your house. Because better out than in, right? And the reality is if you don't have that system, it's relatively easy to put in, and you should be testing your house almost every 2 years. Quick story is my sister bought a house. It was a condo. They had a basement in the condo. When we bought the house, it tested around 2 or 3 picocuries. Anyways, it was below the level, so we didn't ask for a radon system. They lived there for, I think, 2 or 3 years, and when they went to sell their house, it tested for higher than that 4.0 threshold. And so we, as the sellers, put in the radon mitigation system for the new buyers. Because what happens in Colorado, we have shifting soils, the house is gonna shift just a little bit, and you are gonna have, a gas is gonna find a way into its house. A lot of these newer houses are airtight or even built with radon systems into it, but it's something that you should know about coming into buying a house in Fort Collins in northern Colorado. We could and probably should do an entire video about it because it can be something scary if you're late at night and go down a dark, deep rabbit hole. But the reality is most, if not all houses are going to have some sort of radon level. It depends on if it's above that 4, if you can negotiate in with your sellers, but if you have it below, just a comfort level. And putting in a mitigation system's relatively simple and easy to do and maintain. Number 2, what are metro districts? You're moving from a state like Texas, where your property taxes are basically 3% of your property values, or the Midwest like Chicago or Illinois, where you have high property taxes and you're like, yes, I am moving to northern Colorado where the property taxes are about 0.6% of the property values. But what is this? I'm buying an $800,000 house and my property taxes say they're gonna be about $8,800. What the heck? I thought I was gonna be saving money. Well, the reality is you're probably buying in what is called a metro district. This is a quasi-governmental, basically, body that was built to develop this piece of land. So the developers came, they put together this metro district, which is basically a governmental body that is able to tax its residents to then pay for the development, the infrastructure, the amenities over the next 40 years. And what this is going to do to you is going to increase the mills that are charged to you for property taxes, and your assessment rate will be the same, but you are going to have a higher mill levy on that home. Generally speaking, a lot of these metro districts have about 50 mills added to their property taxes. So for me at my house, I have about 95 mills. It is about 0.65% of my property value and annual property taxes. And so really not too bad. But if I lived in a metro district, it would add 50 mills to that, moving my percentage property tax from about 0.65 to 1 to 1.1% of the property value. Now, some of the pros that come along with metro districts is you have some phenomenal infrastructure, lights, sidewalks, you have good maintenance of those. And then additionally, you probably have a clubhouse because they're generally pretty new. I would say in the 2000s, definitely in the 2010s and beyond, majority, if not all of developments, not all of them, but the majority of developments are using and leveraging metro districts to develop. Now, there's an argument to be said that developers are absolutely using this as a cash cow play because, hey, they're going to be the ones that are going to be getting the bonds paid to them and they're going to refinance them. And that could be the truth. But I think that's kind of out of our lane. However they're doing that, whether it's ethical or the right thing to do, is a conversation for another day. What it is allowing for is development in northern Colorado where developments weren't necessarily before. And you are going to have a higher property tax because of that. But you are also going to have more amenities, clubhouse, pools, parks, things of that nature than a lot of the developments that are in Fort Collins proper, in Loveland proper, that are a little bit older in older neighborhoods that don't have the metro districts and maybe not nearly as many amenities, but do have a more affordable property tax than metro districts. So in a nutshell, you're going to have higher property taxes, but more amenities, and you are signing up for essentially this property tax forever. They claim that it's going to be about a 40-year bond that's paid off, and then they're going to go away. The reality is they're going to refinance that, and it's going to be in perpetuity. So that's a conversation that you're going to have. Do we want a newer house and a newer development that has a metro tax with a higher property tax, or possibly an older house in an older neighborhood without maybe as much amenities, but definitely a more affordable property tax? Number 3, and this is very much anecdotal, the weather variability east versus west of I-25. The feeling, and I'm saying feeling, is that on the west side of I-25, we are somewhat protected with the Front Range and weather. It seems to come over the ridge and jump over those communities that are right up against the foothills and jumps over I-25 onto the east side. Now, I can say that Fort Collins, to my knowledge, has never had a tornado, but Windsor has in 2008, and only one in my lifetime. And that could be a result of that weather pattern coming and jumping over the Fort Collins area, Loveland area, right to Windsor. I will say, as you get further out into the Eastern Plains, absolutely not, without a doubt, you could have some relatively significant wind, hail, and snowstorms comparatively to that along the Front Range. My sister lives in Haxton, Colorado, and some of the storms that they have along in that area decimates crops, livestock, and some of the snowstorms, they got to get tractors out, and it's just a very challenging time for them when there are some significant weather storms. But anecdotally, Larimer versus Weld County, east of I-25, it feels like when you jump over I-25, you have a little bit more severe weather patterns than you do on the west side. I don't think it's night and day by any means, but it does feel like you might have a little bit more significant weather storms on the east side of I-25 versus the west side. Number 4, politically. And we are unfortunately living in a time where it is pretty divisive. Hopefully that figures itself out in the coming months and years. But until that time, making lifestyle decisions with a political undermine, it might be important to you. And I would say knowing the difference between Weld and Larimer County in northern Colorado is pretty important. Weld County over the last 10 elections has voted Republican 10 times. Larimer County has voted Republican 4 out of the last 10 elections, but has voted Democrat the last 4 elections in a row. So at one point, Larimer County felt to be very purple. And before that, even from my understanding, it was pretty staunch Republican, conservative, based in agriculture, rural, pretty heavily Republican voting. And then it moved to be a little bit more purple, mixed matching, Democrat to Republican. And over the last 4 elections has swung pretty strong to the Democratic blue voting. So you do have this pretty strong barrier between Larimer and Weld County, whereas Larimer County, its biggest population is at Colorado State University, higher education, generally a little bit more dense area, leaning towards Democrat, progressive, liberal views, whatever you want to call them. Whereas Weld County is definitely more sprawled out, farm, agriculture, rural, and has voted Republican the last 10 times. Regardless, as I have talked about in previous videos about living in northern Colorado, pros and cons, while I live in Fort Collins, I'm living in northern Colorado. So there is something to be said about just because you live in Windsor, Colorado, doesn't mean you don't get to take some of the amenities of Fort Collins and Loveland and Greeley, Johnstown, Berthoud, all of those. You are close enough to get to enjoy some of those areas. But politically leaning, if you have that really strong desire to be in a Republican county, that might be where you more lean towards. Now, there are parts of Windsor that are in Weld and Larimer, but the majority in Weld. But definitely places like Greeley, all in Weld County. So that might be an area that you want to explore a little bit more. Severance, Colorado. Definitely areas, if that is something that is important to you, is imperative for you to know, because Weld County, oil, gas, rural, sprawled out farm, agriculture, strong Republican. Larimer County, purple over the last 10 years or so, but has definitely been more blue the last 4 elections with Colorado State University. Loveland, Colorado right there, has a strong foundation in the arts and culture scene. So if that is important to you and you are concerned about that, it's important to make that decision, understand that before making a decision on where to move in northern Colorado. And finally, the 5th thing to know before making a huge decision to possibly move across country, across the state, or maybe across the world. If you have children, this is imperative because it is something that northern Colorado, Fort Collins, Loveland, it does have a lot of families that move here. And the education system and consideration is paramount for them to make that decision. Fortunately, I would actually say that all 3 main school districts, Poudre, Thompson Valley, Weld County RE4, are actually pretty strong. It was great. We just recently had the PSAT, SATs, and CMAS, where they test for math, language arts, science, and then the PSAT and SAT scores as well. Poudre School District did rank the best out of all three, with Weld County coming in number 2 and Thompson Valley number 3 with regards to those three considerations. But all three of them ranked relatively pretty high in the state of Colorado. So I don't think you're making a bad decision wherever per se, but the bigger thing as I'm going through this whole parent thing, and I'm just getting started. So you might be further along the road or just getting started, but I would say I'm learning as I'm going and finding out what's important to me and my family. And so I would suggest to go and tour a school in the area you're considering to move to and see the longevity of the teachers. How long are teachers staying there? And are they jumping ship after a couple of years? Do they have a lot of principal turnover? Those are things that I would want to know because, yes, I'm going to spend a majority of my time, teaching my kids as much as I can when they're at home, reading with them, doing flashcards, but they're going to be at school for 8 hours a day. And these teachers are going to have a huge impact on their lives. And if it's a new teacher, 1 year, that's okay. I'm not saying new teachers are great. They bring an excitement and energy. All of that is amazing. But you do want to have some established teachers. And if teachers aren't in a district that is either paying them or keeping them or giving them competitive benefits, they might be jumping ship. And so your kid might have a new teacher 3 or 4 years in a row. And I would say that might be a risk that you don't want to necessarily take. So I would suggest, while yes, the rankings are clear, Poudre School District ranks the highest as far as education scores go, with Weld County coming in number 2 and Thompson Valley number 3 for those 3 schools in consideration. But the more important thing would be to go and tour that school if you have higher priorities. Let's say, whether it's radon, metro districts, or political climate or weather, or, outdoor lifestyle, what are all those things? They might have a little bit bigger priority because you're really going to be focused on teaching your kids at school or at home. But obviously they're going to be at school for such a long time. So go and tour one of those schools. But with the rankings are clear, Poudre School District, graduate of. So you might be watching this video and be like, dude graduated from Poudre School District. Definitely not going to whatever school district he went to. He needs some help, got a little trouble in the brain, whatever you might be thinking, that's okay. But those are the 5 things that I think it's important for you to know amongst so many others. And why it's important is because hey, you're making a huge decision. At least this will get you a foundation. From there, watch plenty other of our videos. There's a ton of information. But if you want more detailed information, feel free, reach out, send me an email. If you're wanting to move, gotta move quick, give us a call or text. That all works. Jump on a Zoom call with us. We will help you, guide you along this route, answer all of the questions, and be a huge resource to you making the move to Northern Colorado. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.